Yeah, with all due respect, guys, I don't think anybody in the chat room wants to. It did see Vince McMahon doing these compromise stuff with women in WWE.
Hell no.
Yeah, we don't need to see that. So
yeah, guys, we don't need to see that. Yeah, let's see that.
It's pretty disgusting. But just for that though, we are going to move on to someone else that was accused of some vile stuff, and that's Velveteen Dream.
Oh boy.
Chris Van Vliet had Velveteen Dream on, and without getting into a whole thing, anybody remembers back in the day, I defended Velveteen Dream in this. My problem with the whole situation was, and I've said this point 1,000 times since it happened. When the night happened that he was accused of sending nudes to a minor, to a 16-year-old,
yeah.
I remember the post by the 16-year-old, and the 16-year-old wrote, I hope he was hacked. I hope he did not send me this stuff. All right. And, he was waiting for a response from Patrick Clark to see if he really sent this or, if it was, he didn't send it. So Patrick Clark said publicly, I did not send that. I don't know where you got that from. It wasn't me. An immediate response, instead of saying, okay, thank you for clearing that up, that person said, liar. You're a liar. No, you're a predator. That person never wanted the truth. We found out afterwards that guy found the pictures through, you remember the websites that had websites of, pictures of all like naked divas and guys that come out of the shower. We've seen them. But he did the interview with Chris Van Vliet, and he brought up all this stuff, and he said pretty much the same thing, that, this kid, went online and said, that he got these screenshots, and he responded and said that, that he did not give it to him. And instead of the person accepting that, he immediately went on social media with hashtag Fire Velveteen Dream. And it was all, and, listen, Velveteen Dream, I think the biggest mistake that he made was having conversations with minors. Even if somebody wants to get into the wrestling business, even if somebody, this is right around COVID, so everybody's locked indoors and you're up late at night and you're just talking about wrestling and you got a couple of, younger, fans. Oh, I want to become a wrestler. What can I do? And this and that. And, Velveteen Dream. Oh, what school did you go to? And this and that. And somehow, it turns into this. Velveteen Dream's biggest mistake is talking to minors, period. Whether innocent or not, that's his biggest mistake. But the thing that gets me, and this actually made me feel good, was when Velveteen Dream was being investigated by WWE. And this is why I hate the IWC and social media as much as I do. WWE took his phone, paid for a forensics company to check the phone, not only to see if there was deleted tweets and messages and FaceTime and photos or anything. They wanted to see if there was evidence of Velveteen Dream trying to scrub his phone. A lot of people may remember Bleach Bit with Hillary Clinton, but they found nothing. Triple H went on a press conference and said, we investigated it, we found nothing. So now, instead of accepting that, people are like, no, he did something. He had to have done something. He's a predator. Fire Velveteen Dream. So I personally feel bad for the guy. I feel, in some ways, he was vindicated because they did this forensic scrub and found nothing. But I think his biggest mistake was even talking to anybody. The minute, if you're interacting online in a chat room and you start talking to a few people and you find out that they're minors, look, guys, I got to get up for work tomorrow. Oh, I got to get up early tomorrow. Oh, I'm having problems with my internet. Oh, look at and you just disconnect. And I think that was his biggest problem. What did you think about the interview with Chris Van Vliet?
Oh, shout out to Chris Van Vliet, friend of the show. Great guy, very good guy.
Yes.
He's had great interactions with him, always respectful. And does a great interview. I think he's the best at what he does. I thought someone said it here in the chat that there's something a little bit off with Patrick Clark. I agree. That's what I watched the interview twice. I always watch it a second time, make sure I don't miss anything I knew we were going to talk about on the show. And he's likable to a degree, but he's an odd bird. But a lot of people are odd birds. Odd people in my profession, in the band and music industry, in the club industry. I work with a lot of odd ducks. There's nothing wrong with being an odd duck. But everyone's got a little bit of a radar about certain things. He has said, DT, if you remember, his excuse was, it happened during the COVID lockdowns and he was bored.
Yes.
Did you hear him say that?
Yeah.
And he was online and he's like, there's nothing going on. And and his thing is, he was mentored. He'd like to mentor a young person who really wants to get in the wrestling business. But you're right, DT, nothing good is going to come out of it. In today's day and age, yes, I'm sure there are even male teachers, young guys out of college who are like, oh, this person's struggling. I saw him post he's struggling with math. I'm a math teacher. How old are you? 15? And there might be good intentions. It's not always sexual. Not everybody's a sexual fucking deviant who wants to help kids. That's a bad stereotype that's put out there that, it's a man, it's a predator. There are people who really, but you got to know how to navigate in this world, in this day and age, and you got to know how it looks. How your intentions are and how it looks sometimes are two different things. Now, I don't know, because some person was saying Patrick Klopka has almost like Michael Jackson syndrome. He just forgets how old he is, and he's thinking he's hanging out with kids, and he's a man closer to 30 than he is to 18. I don't know what kind of guy he is. I know that he was prepared with Chris Van Vliet. DT, that was a lot of reading. That was as much reading as you did with the excerpts the other day. Jesus Christ. That's why I had to watch it twice, because I felt like I was missing stuff. Yeah. And I did find myself getting a little distracted. It was about a 90-minute interview, DT. Yes. So I was getting a little distracted because there were times that Chris was not talking at all and Patrick was continuously reading from paper. That's a little bit rough to watch. I mean, if I'm listening to it on audio, it's different. But as I'm watching someone just flip through papers and read it, I had to watch it twice. Yeah. And I know, but what he said was he was bored, and then this kid really wants to wrestle. He was naming names, which I don't know. DT, did you think that was smart, that he was dropping names of people, even his best friend and stuff, and talking about, there was just something about, like, he should have been like what you would know, names mentioned or whatever, because I think you get yourself, in a little bit of trouble there. But because people were saying Chris didn't challenge him enough. Well, Chris he was doing the best he could with the way that the interview was set up. Listen, DT, this wasn't Meet the Press. I don't know what people expected from this. Right. I think it's Patrick Clark trying to show people that he's not a bad guy, because if you remember what Chris Van Vliet said to him, you might end up being one of the what could have been stories. And Patrick immediately shot back, no, that's not true. It's what I'm going to be. It's what I am. Right. It's what I'm going to be. Chris didn't jump on about that, but I'm sure Chris in his mind's like, dude, you might be finished in this business. He didn't say that, but I was thinking that too. And a lot of people could say, but Kev, why is he finished if he wasn't arrested? He wasn't arrested for this. He wasn't sued for this or anything. Does his career really have to be over, DT? I mean, did you get a sense of, dude, it's find something else to do with yourself. This is over for you in wrestling. I don't know. I know that, let me say this, he's a great talent. I was a fan too. I thought he was one of the next big things out of NXT. There's no doubt about it. The talent that he had, the moveset, he reminded me of Randy Savage in a lot of ways. He had great fucking, charisma. And when all this shit happened, I shook my head and I was wondering, when you're dealing with kids, again, Vince was dealing with an adult, and look what happened. That's an adult woman, like near 30 years old. You're dealing with kids now. Even if he didn't do anything, that stigma, that stink, that black cloud is always over his head. DT, how does he get rid of it?
Yeah, the only way is he's got to find someone who has a wrestling promotion who
takes a leap of faith with him.
Yeah, that's willing to take the leap of faith and take the heat for the first couple of shows. I think once those first couple of shows happen and, that people realize that, no, you're not going to succeed in getting him disbarred, I think that's when people will pull away a little bit. See, the problem, especially with cancel culture, look, I personally think WWE did the right decision by not having Brock Lesnar in the Royal Rumble, simply because 99% of the wrestling world have not read the lawsuit. The problem with today is that people don't want the actual truth. They have to have it go a certain way. They don't want to find out that Chris Jericho never committed any type of assault on Kylie Ray. I have my, suspicions, my personal opinion.
Of course, we all have opinions.
My personal opinion is that they were hanging out. Maybe everybody was drinking, having a good time, and Chris Jericho thought he could score. He thought he read the room wrong. It doesn't justify Chris Jerico.
No,
my thing is, in this day and age, People don't want to find out that Velveteen Dream did not send nudes. People don't want to find out that Brock Lesnar never did anything with this girl. They want a reason to destroy everybody. That's why with Triple H, people are insisting that Triple H knew what Vince was doing. You know, even though a good portion of this time frame, Triple H was home fighting with his heart problems, you know, and you start adding the timeline and, well, if it's not him, it must have been Stephanie. You know, it's like, because
Stephanie would be home with her husband dealing with almost a near-fatal heart attack.
Exactly.
DT, also, but the funny thing is Jericho, Lesnar, Velveteen Dream, they were liked. They have a big fan base. Jericho and Lesnar have a huge fan base. Yeah. Why are people so quick to turn on their heroes and decide, just flip it and go? People want like this punishment dished out, but no road to redemption, ever. No road to redemption.
Look at Lars.
Yeah.
Look at Lars. I mean, I'm not trying to psychoanalyze Lars, but I became friendly with him for a little while, and I talked to him a little bit.
I almost forgot about that. Yeah, I almost forgot about
it. You know, the thing was it's a sticky situation that it's not my place to put out there. But, you know, my thing was that, you know, there was a video that came out and everybody knows the theme of that video. And then he was found like 10, 15 years ago saying some awful stuff. And then you find out a little stories that, hey, you know, the people behind this film, they were a little bit abusive and they were, they liked the M&Ms with peanuts. So you might have had a little bit of a personal anger toward, you know, so you tried on it, but nobody wants to hear that. People are like, no, he's got to be banished from wrestling. That's it. No redemption. Nothing.
DT, I sometimes think that, you know, people forget, you know, that sounds corny. So wrestlers are people.
Yes.
And that they have families and that there's blowback for their children. Jericho has children, Brock Lesnar has children and stuff. You say, well, they should behave themselves and then worry about that. But again, based on gossip and rumor mongering, I mean, what are we basing it on? No one was arrested here. Even Velveteen Dream, you could say, Chris was asking before, wasn't Velveteen Dream in trouble in other aspects with the law? Yes. He was arrested, DT, for what? For intoxicated in public? Assault, cocaine. But does that make him a child predator, DT?
Right, exactly.
You know, listen, DT, over the years, me and you grew up in the 80s. We knew a lot of people who did coke. Were they child predators?
No, not at all. No. Matt Riddle, not the most popular person today, but I know exactly what happened at JFK. And the thing with JFK was they had just come back from the tour of India. He actually had an ear infection. They got stuck in JFK, him and Braun Breaker. I was stuck on the opposite side. I was in Florida trying to get back to New York. He was in New York trying to get back to Florida.
So the same time?
Same time. Wow. Same day. I got stuck in Florida. He got stuck in New York. So they had the layover, and he had a couple of drinks, and then he had an asshole person in the airport. And if you ever see Matt Riddle, you know, he walks around, you know, with sandals. He's got that very, very laid-back attitude, and he's got his nails painted, and he's got the long blonde locks. And you know how it is here in New York. The fuck you got paint on your nails for? What are you, a fucking girl?
And DT, let's mention this. He's not that famous that everybody knows who he is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it'd be different if maybe the person at the airport, it was a wrestling. Not everybody's a wrestling fan.
Yeah. And look, Matt Riddle, if you do something, he's going to snap back. So, you know, you got the New York attitude and you get an asshole cop in JFK. Like, you know, what are you, a fucking sissy? You know, what the fuck is this with these painted nails and your fucking hair and you got this braid and this and that? That's, you know, we live in New York. I live 5 minutes away from JFK. I know.
I live 20 minutes.
Yeah, I know what this is about. But nobody online wants to hear that. Oh, he's just a problem and he's got to be fine. Listen, he obviously had issues. I could defend him till the cows go home, but he definitely is guilty of, you know, having issues. A little bit of baggage, you know.
Bad judgment. That's all. We all have bad judgment.
But nobody wants to know the story. They want to just have the reason to
not like him anymore or to dish out the punishment.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's amazing to me, you know, but to jump back to Velveteen Dream, I think, I don't know what you know what's funny about, not funny, but you know what I think is sad actually about Patrick Clark is I don't think he knows how to do or wants to do anything else. So where does he go from here?
I know.
He that's what he said to Van Vliet. No, I'm going to be a wrestling star. I don't think he has a plan. Maybe. He didn't talk about going back to get his broker's license. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe he should go to Japan.
That's a good idea, DT. I think they take him in Japan.
Go to New Japan. Honestly, I think he should go to New Japan. I think if he goes to New Japan, not California, New Japan. I mean, even though I think, California would be fine with him, but go to New Japan. Get out of the country.
Agree.
Get out of the country. Because that Japanese, trust me, the Japanese IWC is not going to go, no, Dream, you get out of here. Go back to America. That's not going to happen. They're going to just, if he performs and he does a great fucking job, they will accept him. And then you hear the buzz. Yeah. And then, what are people online going to do? They're going to protest in Japan? What are they going to do?
DT, you would hope that, as the saying goes, time heals all wounds. Time heal,
You got to force the healing.
You gotta keep the bandage on, make sure it's fully healed. And of course, there'll be a couple of people who will bring it up. I mean, listen, this could be years from now, but it's not. He could come back. A lot of people in the chat are going, "Nah, he's done. He's finished." I don't know. Let's see what happens. But if you're determined, and sometimes you have some luck on your side, you get, as me and DT said, it gets someone to take a chance on you. Absolutely. Right, DT? Get a couple of shows in, put in those performances, and don't get in any more trouble from here on in, by the way.
Yes.
That's a key thing, right, DT? Keep a clean nose and keep out of the fray. Go 3-4 years. He's a young man. He's like 27 years old.
He's still got his whole.
He's got right. So go there for 3 years. Come back. You're still 30. Maybe Endeavor will take another chance on you. You never know.
Absolutely.
But I always hate when someone says someone's finished, because it almost sounds like they should go kill themselves. I mean, that's kind of horrible. I mean, it's like you got to give some people a path to redemption. Especially if they were not proven guilty of anything.
Yeah. And listen, scrubbing that phone is a big deal. Forensics on a phone is a big fucking deal, but nobody wants to know that. It's like, shh, come on, we want to fucking rip this guy. Stop giving us, reason why we're wrong. Nobody wants to hear that.